lot more to Kate, who is also a playwright, director, performer and lecturer. So today we're taking the opportunity of getting to know her better. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you. It's all about me.
Not so much the theatre
Exactly.
and other people's plays, but yours. So when and how did your interest in theatre first start?
Oh, I was thinking about this last night. I wondered whether you might pop that one. But we didn't have, in my school years, we didn't have school plays and drama at school, but I kept creating things. Like there were things we read in class and then I'd get a group together and put it together. But we had elocution. And we used to do performed large massed plays. But I mostly did choir and singing. So sang in the choir and performed with a friend, in our final year of school. I auditioned for things at university. I went into student theatre at Monash. So I did my degree at Monash, an arts degree, and majoring in literature, Shakespeare particularly, and other things, and sociology. But I auditioned for things, did a sort of street theatre thing the first year and didn't quite like the gang. Auditioned for a Shakespeare through the English department, got into it to play Volumnia in Coriolanus and didn't go ahead with it. Madness. A whole series of things were working against me. But I ended up going through my degree, teaching, doing an additional drama teaching unit. So that was my way in, and also I knew a lot of people who were working in the theatre at the time. So I came into it from education, from doing lots of Australian theatre study and Shakespeare study in uni, doing my dip ed and specialising in not only English teaching but drama teaching, and then doing a postgrad diploma in drama education, which had a lot of acting training in it as well. So that was the beginning. But after I did that, I went to teach for a couple of years in a private girls' school. I tried to get into sort of, difficult to work in schools, and they wouldn't have me. So I ended up with, lovely girls. Wrote a play for them. We won some awards with that, taught drama for the whole school for a couple of years, and then went off to work at Arena Theatre Company, which at that stage was Children's Arena Theatre. And I was employed as the community liaison officer. So I ran community drama programs for people with disabilities, people in high-rise flats, ran the kids program, etc. Then I was hauled into the performance company. Someone disappeared and I took that on. And that was the beginning of my acting career.
Did you keep up the singing?
Yes, I did. I did 20 years of classical training. I come from a family of musical and singing people. My eldest sister is a classical singer, and that sister and my brother sang in a folk duo in the 60s, 70s for, they were that sort of era of folky things. So I find myself singing folk songs a lot, obscure Polish folk song. So yes, I did keep up the singing, and I in my other world of improvisation, I worked with improvised musicals. So if I skip to that territory, which came a little bit later, after I worked with Arena Theatre for a long time, we were singing in those shows, and we wrote them all together as a group and performed, and a lot of them had music and song. I started improvising and worked with a group called Melbourne Improvisers Theatre first.
Where did the interest in that come from? The risk-taking?
I guess improvisation was part of all the drama training and drama teaching. But I think as a kid and as a teenager and young adult, I just like making up stuff. I used to always say I spend my life, when I was working, all the time in theatre and teaching, I spend my time making up stories, pretending to be other people. And it sounds a bit like madness, but that was what the improvisation and the theatre was all about, playing games, making up stories, pretending to be other people. So the impro was, first of all, Melbourne Improvisers Theatre with a chap called David Lander. And that was working with masks and often quite serious stuff, and I'd sing in that as well, improvise sing. Then we started theatre sports, and people will remember that who were around at the time in the sort of mid-80s or so. No, actually, was it that late? Yeah, that early, 85.
What does it mean?
Theatre sports was created by Keith Johnston, who's a sort of eccentric Englishman who lives in Canada. I went over and did some training with him. And it's drama improvisational exercises or scenes that are done as a competition. And here in Australia, it was sort of picked up and turned into like a footy match, really. It was like so competitive. And when I got to America and Canada and saw what it was supposed to be like, it was much gentler and supportive. And so it's now like that. The company worked out of this Hellier Street convent for a long time, recently that is. But we did these sort of competitive improvised shows, and it went like gangbusters. And the ABC picked it up and became a TV series. It didn't work so well on telly because the improvising, you can't edit it and all that. We shouldn't. And sometimes they bomb. You do some real garbage. But we did it on the telly, and then we went to the Playhouse, State Theatre, concert hall for the final shows. It was huge, 2,000 people. But then I went into improvising short plays in the style of Shakespeare, Brecht, etc. Then full-length plays in the style of Shakespeare and musicals. And the Shakespeare was my master's at the VCA.
So he's remained a love.
Yes, absolutely. We haven't got to my plays yet, have we?
No. Let's get on to them. When did you start writing?
The first play, well, I suppose the first play I wrote was that one for the kids, the girls I was teaching. But then I wrote my first solo play. I devised a lot in community theatre and theatre in education in all those companies I worked in. The first solo one was called Demon, and that had my name on it. And that was 1991, I think, after theatre sports sort of period, but still performing. I was working as a stand-up comedy at some point too, just after that, stand-up comedian.
He's very brave.
Oh, that was the scary bit. That was a really scary one. So Demon, 90, and then I started writing more plays after that. Some I worked on with other people, some I worked on with companies. But since then, I think I'm up to, I don't know, full-length plays at probably about 20-something, 24, 5, and I've got about 12 or 15 short plays. And I wrote a musical during COVID.
Yes,
called
I
Panda
heard
Effing Demic, Panda Effing Monium, which was the way we were feeling.
Coping with
absolutely.
Lockdown?
I was going for walks in the state-sanctioned, walking period and improvising songs into my phone. And then I thought, I've got about 6 songs. I might write a few more. And my nephew in Tassie, who's a composer, composed all the music and scored it, and then we recorded it. And then I thought I may as well write the play. So that's, since then, I've done a couple of other things. We had the bully virus, and I wrote a short radio play for the Seniors Festival, which has not been produced yet, called Lung, about a lung transplant victim. I shift from comedy to drama fairly commonly. That seems to be the sort of shift, and the dramas have comedy in them as well.
So do you have, when you write, you direct, you perform, do you have a favourite activity?
Oh, I think improvising is probably my favourite, but I haven't done it. I did during COVID. The other thing I did was improvise a 22-episode radio play, completely solo, playing all the characters, unedited, unrehearsed. So that was huge fun. But I haven't been doing any live stuff recently. But that probably is. But if you put it all together. Directing a show, you're improvising with people, rehearsing a show, you're improvising, teaching students, you're rehearsing, improvising, etc.
Yes, transferable skills.
Yes.
Now, as we know, you're a reviewer. What do you see as the role of a reviewer?
I always remember Jeffrey Milne, our late dear Jeffrey Milne, reviewer for the ABC and teaching at La Trobe, saying, quoting Brecht actually, our role is as a witness, not a judge. And I find that useful. But I feel my role is to alert not only the readership, but the industry and the people in the performance or related to the performance about what the pluses and minuses are, what makes it work, what are problems, rather than just slamming it or putting my ego on the page. I have to put a personality on the page when I'm writing or speaking. But my job is to talk to the audience and the performers or the artists. So I suppose that's it in a nutshell.
Well, I must say I find your reviews illuminating and never vindictive. So.
Oh, good. Well, I hope so. I've just been loading onto my blog. I'm back to 1992 reviews now. That was my first year ever at the Melbourne Times. And some of those early ones, Richard III with John Bell as Richard, was one of my first. And I thought, that's pretty damn good, actually. I think I was, and my former editor from one of the papers said to me the other day, she read it, I think perhaps were you more daring in your opinions then? And I think I had perhaps less to lose and it wasn't earning much from it.
So how do you build up a following? You've got a blog, you've got YouTube performance. How do you build a following? How do you get it out there?
I don't even know if I've got a following. Wouldn't have a clue. I just do it.
Just put it out there.
I just do it. And I found, look, when I was doing theatre sports, I knew we had a following because people would recognise me in cafes and things, and they knew me as that. Then people knew me as comedian. Then they knew me as something else, television. I did one of those comedy TV shows. And now it's reviewing. And I think I had a following out in the suburbs when I was with the Herald Sun because everybody's auntie and granny used to know who I was. Melbourne Times had an inner city following. And some people just, wouldn't have a clue who I am. I don't know who's listening. Hello, are you out there? MBS audience, are you out there?
Of course they are. Sadly, we haven't got much more time,
No.
but just quickly, what does 2023 hold for you, apart from Arts Weekly?
Yeah, well, I'll be back.
Good.
I'll be back. I'd like to set my mind to another play or two. I'm hoping that Lung, the radio play, will be produced for the Seniors Festival. Fingers crossed, I have to talk to them. I do love radio plays. That's fun. Write some more. I wouldn't mind directing something else, but with a small cast. When it gets above 3, it's a bit of wrangling cats, But I'll be still teaching playwriting and a couple of other things at Melbourne Polytechnic just once a week.
Yes, we didn't even get to your educational career, and you were the
Yeah.
Vocational Teacher of the Year in 2015,
That's
which is
true.
a feather in your cap.
Yeah, fancy pants, eh? I even got a little trophy thing.
I'm glad you're still teaching, and it's been wonderful to hear about the breadth of your experience. So interesting.
That we've left big gaps in there, but we've covered quite a lot in 12 minutes or so.
We did. And I'm so glad we'll be having you on the show again next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks,
See you then.
Kate.